It's so easy to believe the doom and gloom merchants, the people that will tell you that South Africa is on the brink of disaster. However, there are a growing number of successful tech entrepreneurs coming out of South Africa and making a name for themselves internationally. Financial service provider Fundamo was acquired by the US-based financial services giant Visa for $110 million. WooThemes and WooCommerce, co-founded in 2008 by Adriaan Pienaar, Magnus Jepson and Mark Forrester, were acquired by the US-based WordPress.com, the holding company. This is the MoneyMakers. I'm Bruce Whitfield. Tonight I'm chatting to Jesse Hemson-Struthers, who's chief executive of Niveus Ventures. He's in our Cape Town studio, about entrepreneur-led investment fund with the aim of making money, but also getting South African entrepreneurs onto the global map. Jesse, give us the idiot's guide as to how it works.
Yeah, let me give you a bit of a background on myself and my business. I've been an entrepreneur by trade. I started my first business when I was 20 years old, SA Camera. Built that out and sold it after 8 years to Naspers 4 years ago. And I think along the way I learned a lot and started one or two other businesses, and now I'm in a position where I want to give back some of my experience and invest back into the economy here.
So many people think that the South African economy is still about Anglo-American, it's still about Barclays Africa, Standard Bank and the big corporates. But there's a considerable amount of real work happening in, and I hate the term, it's a term that guys like you use, the ecosystems of innovation in South Africa. There's a lot of good stuff going on.
I think there's a huge amount of opportunity. I mean, if you look at the first world economies, the gross jobs are created in startups. And the jobs are being lost in the bigger corporates and in government. So I think there's a massive opportunity here, and we're seeing in Cape Town there's huge amounts of demand for jobs, and in a lot of the startups there's we can't find enough good people.
Now, give me a sense of the strategy, please, how you identify the companies you invest in, because what you're really trying to do, as I understand it, is to find companies with potential, with good people, always the big secret there, make investments, grow the businesses, and then create opportunities for them to be sold elsewhere.
I look back at my entrepreneurial career, and there's been many times where I'd struggled to find investment or find kind of support and mentorship in a broader network to work within. So I think what we're ideally looking to find with Niveus Ventures is entrepreneurs that are kind of climbing the ranks and need some support to expedite and speed up their growth. They might have found some kind of innovation, and they're not sure how to build that into a business, or they might have unlocked some kind of opportunity that they need support with. So it's a lot more than just the investment. It's our experience and our network and building businesses in South Africa over the last 12 years.
One has the impression that so many of South Africa's great tech entrepreneurs have upped sticks and have moved. We look at what Rudolf Buerter is doing in Silicon Valley. We look at what the great Elon Musk is doing in that part of the world as well. And we think to ourselves, we're sending our best talent internationally and we're getting absolutely zero return. You're suggesting that we've got a couple of gems sitting here at home.
I think, it's an interesting question. I think there's a lot of opportunity for, the great talent that we have here in South Africa to, create global businesses using South Africa as a base. And there's lots of examples of those as well, where, there's a lot of money coming back into the economy. There's a lot of skills and expertise being brought back, and, training people up into roles that wouldn't otherwise be possible. I think the global, world we live in today is an important factor for us, and a trend that we need to ride in South Africa. Being on the same time zone with Europe and other aspects like the weak currency make it an ideal spot for us to develop businesses from here.
I don't want you to give away your trade secrets of what you're doing right now, but there are some very nice war stories of businesses that you have helped and people that you've helped make pretty rich.
I think we've got a good track record. Some examples of our staff have started right at the bottom, being kind of junior interns, and have built into becoming the leaders of businesses, and have made millions in exits of the businesses. I think the key is finding people that have the potential to grow, and then supporting them through that process.
Give me some examples of companies that you've helped grow and that the founders have managed to either stay invested as shareholders, or maybe have managed to exit.
Sure. I mean, I think SA Camera is a great example of that. I think within 2 years of the business, we hired a junior kind of salesperson in the business, and he went on to becoming the GM of the business with a substantial equity stake. And years following that, he built the business to a position where we could sell the business together to Naspers. and now we're starting a new business with them, which is an education business, and that's looking to be a huge success. So having worked with them for 10 years, we've built a good relationship, and there's obviously a reason why we're doing something new together.
A bit like famous brands has become the default option for anybody who starts a restaurant and thinks they've got a franchise concept. Naspers has almost become that big daddy of tech in South Africa, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think they've had some good success in some of their investments, and I think you can't fault them. But I think it is difficult to build startups in a corporate environment. And that's what we're hoping to achieve, is to give some more freedom and creative, offer some more creativity to happen in a less structured environment where we can support in the right things, but not step on too many toes and restrict any kind of innovation from happening.
What are you looking for in terms, as an investor, when it comes to tech startups? Because there are lots of people sitting in their pajamas in their garages all day, desperately pounding away at Mac keyboards, trying to develop something brilliant, and they may have a good idea. Sure. What are you looking for?
Yeah, I think, it all starts with a good team. I mean, that's the first thing we look at, and ideally that's, the criteria for that is someone that's, ideally had some track record, maybe worked in another business or startup in the past, had some experience in this kind of thing, and then obviously the idea is really important. I think, that the right team can, obviously evolve an idea, from something, that might not be working into something that does work. So that's why it's, the leading factor. But, an idea, if, with our experience, we can see that a lot of, things that people are working on in South Africa might not necessarily, be able to be scaled, or there might not be a big enough market for it, based on our learnings from trying similar things in the past. So, it's, I think there's a lot of value that we can add through the process. But I think strong people that have leadership abilities and some kind of track record is really first prize for us. And I think where a business has a global marketplace potential to expand internationally, or to offer a global product, that's it's a bonus for us.
Are we doing anything new in South Africa? Are we going to see one day the equivalent of an Uber or an Airbnb emerge out of South Africa, or are we the copycats of the tech world?
It's an interesting question. I do think that the businesses that are focused on the local markets have really innovated, and they've come up with solutions that's having seen what the UK companies that have tried to expand into South Africa in the tech space have tried to do, it hasn't worked. I mean, the cost center and the product the product features are too different to what the local requirements would be. So I do think that there is an opportunity, a massive opportunity, with a local advantage to for the people that have experience in the local market to build out businesses. Whether the South Africans can compete in a global space is it is more of a challenge. But we see these great successes like MoneyMakers is one, and obviously companies like people like Elon Musk that have emerged from South Africa. It's for us as a company, it's it's important to find people that have these kinds of goals, and finding them at the right time before they while they still need the support that we can offer.
But again, also before they implode, because not everybody's an Elon Musk. Elon Musk is somewhat of a special beast in the same way as Raymond Ackerman was a special beast when it came to retail all those years ago. Many people are the ideas generators. They create a good business which has got plenty of growth potential, but they're not the guys to take it necessarily to that end point. And I'm guessing that's where the sale option then emerges.
Sure. Yeah, I think there's always challenges in businesses and different requirements along different phases of the business, and I think with that also we've had experience in going through tough times in businesses, and the markets can shift, and you need to kind of they might need a whole new team requirement in terms of what's required to take it and get it back on track. And we're very patient investors, and we've been in many difficult situations ourselves, and worked through those kinds of problems before.
It does help, doesn't it? I mean, you've been through the process, that mentorship of I would say holding somebody by the hand, but you may touch them on the shoulder in a manly kind of way to reassure them that it's not the end of the world. What are the best ideas coming out of South Africa right now?
It's a good question. I think we're looking at quite a few different things, and this fund has been underway for a long time, and this is the first stage towards getting a bit more out there and looking at what's come about. We have made one investment, and it's in mobile technology, and it's still in stealth mode, but we're really excited about potential fintech businesses, given that the financial services space is such a large portion. I think it's over 20% of our GDP, with a lot of the other things being a tiny fragment of that. So I think the financial services innovation is a key area for us, and we are looking at some kind of very early stage and exciting opportunities there.
Okay, give me one that's not in stealth mode, one that you can actually talk about, Jesse, one with a human being behind it. Who are we looking out for? What are we looking out for? What is the next big thing?
Look, I think some of the startups that are kind of in this early stage, but with a lot of growth potential, would be companies like Y Group and Intersect, which provides banking security solutions, and as I understand is expanding to the States right now and signing big deals there. And other companies like Betech, which is a rapidly expanding software provider in the gaming space in Africa. Those are just some examples that have got some strong track record, and I think have a good potential in the future.
And again, mobile is such a strong opportunity on this continent. Are we seeing South African tech entrepreneurs creating Africa solutions for Africa problems?
Yeah, I think very much so. I mean, I've seen a number of really good mobile opportunities, and we've looked closely at them in terms of investment, where guys have created much more simplified versions of things happening overseas to adapt it for the local market, in terms of creating the right payments processing and localizing it in terms of languages for the local markets. That having when I kind of explain these ideas to people abroad, they can't even get their head around that how simple or how different the product requirement would be here in terms of mobile.
Jesse Hemson-Struthers, thank you very much, Chief Executive of Niveus Ventures. There's a lot of really good stuff happening. A lot of it is happening in Stellenbosch. I've got a business idea. I'm going to go to Stellenbosch, get a tap and full bottles of water, because I want to drink what they drink in that town. But there's a lot of good stuff happening around nodes in the Western Cape, and of course in Gauteng as well, where people are coming up with great ideas, particularly in the tech space, where the cost of entry isn't perhaps as high as building a factory or a chain of supermarkets, and they're creating some very nifty businesses which can box on the global stage. Thank you for watching The Moneymakers. That's it from the show for this evening. Until next time, bye-bye.